Welcome back to the Neighbors Podcast. Today is such a special episode. I got to sit down with my pastor, and maybe yours, Pastor Joby Martin, and his daughter, Reagan. Pastor Joby is the lead pastor of the Church of 1122 in Jacksonville, Florida, where I am on staff full-time, and my family attends and worships. And he's also an author. He just came out with his third book, Run Over by the Grace Train, so you should get a copy if you haven't already. And he's just an incredible leader, pastor, all of the things. And then his daughter, Reagan, she is so incredible. She just turned 15, and she talks about what it's like to navigate life as a teenager who loves the Lord. And it has its unique difficulties, and it's so inspiring talking to her about how she navigates those, how they navigate it together as a family. And Pastor Joby just gives really good handles to what this generation is experiencing and how we, as any adult, can spur them on to continue pursuing the Lord. And so I hope you enjoy this conversation. I hope you enjoy all of our conversations at Neighbors. And if you do, then would you be so kind to share or rate our show, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, giving us a 5-star review, or on YouTube, subscribing, or sharing on social media. It just helps Neighbors become more discoverable so that more people can hear these conversations and be spurred on to what the Lord is calling them to do. Ultimately, we just want people to love God more, and we would love if you would help us do that. So here's my conversation with Pastor Joby and Reagan Martin. Okay, Joby and Reagan Martin, welcome to the Neighbors Podcast.
Hi.
This is so fun. The tables have kind of turned, Pastor Joby, because usually we're in the Deepen podcast studio together, which is dark, moody, kind of looks like your office. And now you came to the Neighbors turf, which is very light, bright, and kind of in a murdery studio, storage space, right?
It is. It's not exactly what you would expect.
Well, we like to surprise people.
Yeah, it's good.
You know? Okay, well, I'm so glad that both of you are here. And Pastor Joby, when you said yes to being on the podcast, well, first of all, I just have to take a moment to thank you because you're a big reason the Neighbors Podcast even exists. And you have been believing in me since the first time I met you when I was 15, actually. Whoa, it's crazy. Gosh. Yeah, your age, Reagan. And I was on a mission trip in Jamaica, and you had heard that I had started this random little club called PB and Joy, where we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and gave them to homeless people. It ended up getting shut down by the FDA, by the way, because you actually can't just make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and package them and give them out without approval. But anyway, you heard about that, and you just asked how you could help. And from that moment until now, you've championed me in so many ways and always have encouraged me and believed in me and given me so many opportunities. And so, I mean, truly, like, this podcast is a fruit of that. And so I really thank you.
Oh, Allie, you're sweet. You're really sweet. I'm super proud of you. It's cool to watch you grow up, you know?
Yeah.
And I get to, we work together a lot now. And it's cool to see you be such a boss lady.
Thanks.
And I meant that at that meeting the other day when I was like, stop it, Allie. Right now is my favorite version of you I've ever met. You were just leading, clarifying, telling dumb people to quit talking. You were reshaping what we just said so that there was no miscommunication. I'm being serious. It was really great. So You're awesome, man. You're awesome. Yeah. Everything you do is awesome. Like when you do Connect Moments at church and videos and all the things, man.
Well,
so,
thanks.
Good job.
Well, you're kind of like I don't want to make you feel old, but
I'm 51.
Kind of like the patriarch of the Neighbors, because you're quoted almost every week. Every guest I have on, they're like, and one time, just like Pastor Joby says.
Well, I listen to a bunch of them, so yeah, I hear it.
Yeah.
Well, good. It's one of the cool things about Gretchen and I moved to Jacksonville in 2003. So, 21 years of teaching the Bible in this area. So hopefully there would be some people that would learn a thing or two.
It's true. This is true.
What I mean?
Yeah. So anyway, when you said yes to coming on this podcast, which you could be doing so many other things with your Friday afternoon, and then you said, hey, can Reagan come on? Because I was kind of like, well, what are we going to talk about? Because we get to be on podcasts together. And, every time you come out with a book, I get to kind of be a part of that. And I'm like, okay, well, what would be a new thing that we can talk about? Not new, because we're going to talk about Jesus, which is what we always talk about. But, what's the content going to be? And then you're like, hey, we should bring on Reagan.
Let's go.
Which I love. So what was that? Like, why bring on Reagan to something like this?
She makes everything better.
Aww.
She really does.
She does.
Yeah. And also, you have had your eye on Reagan's development and discipleship, especially over the past few years, and you'll comment often. even on the Deep End podcast, she'd be like, Reagan was in the front row, just worshiping with her hands up. And I don't know, man.
I love it.
Tomorrow's her birthday. We're going to go on a birthday dinner tonight with Mama right after this. And
where are you going to go?
Wherever she wants.
We don't know yet.
Where do you want to go?
I don't know yet.
We're also going to the Georgia game tomorrow, so we got to go get her some more Georgia gear. We got a lot going on this weekend.
You have a lot going on. Okay, so I love to ask this question, depending on the guest, and this I definitely want to ask the two of you. What is your hot take? Which means what's something you have a strong opinion about that might be unpopular opinion?
We talked about this so much.
Yeah.
Reagan was like, I need a hot take.
Well, I felt really old right before we started recording. I said, do people still say hot take? She's like, yeah, we say that. I'm like, okay.
Your hot take.
I have a few, but mine is more for like girls.
Okay.
And like mainly girls my age. I think laying out and tanning is the worst thing ever. I hate it so
very hot take in Florida.
I hate it so much.
Why?
Why would you lay out and tan when you can go like swim in the ocean and probably get even more tan?
I mean, very valid. And an even tan.
And you're just like laying there sweating.
Sweating.
Like it's so hot. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
That's a really
But you
good hot
love
take.
the beach so much.
I love the beach, but if
You just don't want to sit there.
you will never see me sitting still for more than like a minute at the beach. Ever.
What about, I was about to say, in life, are you just kind of a more gotta be going all the time?
Except at home when the Gilmore Girls are on, then you are cocooned up, glued into.
Yeah.
Or when you're watching YouTube videos of people eating
Mukbangs.
mukbangs. Still don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what's your other hot take?
My other hot take, it's not that big of a hot take. I hate ketchup, and I don't think that a tomato should be in ketchup form. I think that that's awful. Ketchup
That's
is like
definitely a hot take.
ketchup is like sweet tomato sauce. It's
That's
so
exactly what it is. That gives you the.
that's so scary.
I feel like people
does
are
give me the ick.
very extreme on ketchup. Either you love ketchup or you hate ketchup. I don't like the smell of ketchup. I do like the taste, but I don't like the smell.
I don't like either.
All right,
It's
Pastor
really
Joby, what's
scary.
your hot take?
My hot take is there's no such thing as a boneless wing. That is called a nugget. And grown men are not allowed to order nuggets.
You told me that hot take when we were at student camp, and a big group of us, we were out to dinner
Right.
after. And then I promptly ordered boneless wings and
There's
felt
no
so
such
judged.
thing. That's called a nugget or even a tender. But that's not a wing.
Oh, so good. All right, that's a great hot take.
I know. I have many also.
Okay. Do you want to share another one or just that one?
Concerts are overrated.
I did.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh, you disagree?
No, she likes
I'm the
it.
only one.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love.
Wes and I are not concert people.
Not
and
me either.
People love them. And
Why?
We just can't get into it.
Me either. I don't
I think
love
it's
it.
always better on the radio or, not the radio, but yeah, I just never think it's as good.
Or I love live music in like a little environment that I'm semi in control of, like 8 people at my table and not just shoulder to shoulder with some randos.
Where you're just standing.
And somebody just like playing all the greatest hits, just all the cover songs.
Yes.
Or I mean, I love a worship service because it's not a concert where I'm like actually involved, but just and sometimes at this point, like we know the people on stage singing at their concert, and I feel like I need to go, but I don't love it.
Gosh, I couldn't agree more. Okay. Reagan, you are on the front row of church service now pretty much every week. And outside of this week, because this was an exception, but what is it like sitting on the front row with your dad preaching?
I feel like a lot of people ask me this. Like, the number one question is, are you Joby's daughter? And the number 2 question would be, what's it like being his daughter and like watching him preach? Which I don't know anything different.
Sure.
Like, it's just like my normal. So I would say it's just normal. Like,
Do you learn as much from him being your dad than as listening to someone else preach?
it's the same because I feel like sometimes when he's on the stage, it just kind of hits. I'm like, oh wait, that's my dad.
Sure.
Like, he's like a different. I don't think of him as my dad when he's on the stage.
Okay, fair. Because he's also not preaching sermons at you at home
Yeah.
all the time.
He's not like-
I would imagine.
No.
Maybe sometimes. But. And then, Joey, what's it like for you preaching, seeing your girl right there on the front row?
Yeah, I'm super proud of what the Lord is doing in her life, especially, she put her faith in Christ when maybe like 8 or something. I have the video of her testimony, baptism testimony, and she's such a little cutie pie, you know. But especially in the last maybe year and a half, God has just fanned the flame of what He's doing in her, and it's just incredible to watch, man. She's a worshiper. You know, her mom's good at it, but we're both into it, so she gets it on us there. And she's like on our student leadership team and takes notes during the sermons, and even to like I'll walk by her room and she'll be getting ready and there's just worship music blaring, and she's got great friends at church.
That matters a lot.
It probably matters the most.
Yeah.
Second to what only the Spirit of God can do in you, but you know, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And she's hanging out with a bunch of kids. So her little friend group, most of them right now go to our Ponte Vedra campus, and they come live on Thursday night. They all sit on the front row together to worship live, and then they go to the Ponte Vedra, which is a set-up teardown campus, to serve both services, just so they can.
In kids?
In most of them serve in like middle school, like they lead middle school students.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's incredible. High schoolers leading middle schoolers. That's legit.
Yeah, man.
I love it. All right, so Reagan, now that you're in high school. Because last time we were on a podcast together, you were not in high school yet. It was your final year of middle school. And so now you're in high school. What's your favorite thing about high school?
We have a lot more freedom, I feel like. It might just be like a Providence thing or like a my school thing. But the teachers give us so much more freedom. But it's also a lot more responsibility. It's like if you don't do your work, that's on you. I'm going to give you this time, and if you don't do it, then that's on you. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like sharing your faith in high school is any different than middle school?
It's a lot. It's about the same. It's really hard sharing your faith with high school students because it's especially people who grew up in the church and know, like, in their heart that they don't want anything to do with that.
And they probably know all the right answers to say, too.
Because they already know, oh, yeah, God loves me. I've been told this a million times. But they, like, in their hearts, they're like, I don't want anything to do with this. I've seen my parents. They don't act like how they act at church. I've seen other people at school that go to youth on Wednesdays. They don't act like how they act at church.
So how do you respond in those moments?
I feel like it's hard there are everyone can be hypocritical. It's really hard to like respond to that because you kind of just have to tell them they're not doing it right. If they're not going to church and like sharing what they learned or like showing what they learned, then they're just not doing it right. And you haven't been around the right people who show what they learn in church, like at school and at their sports and other stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that. Pastor Joby, what do you feel like now that you have a college student and a high school student? Like, what does this generation need in regards to learning about the Lord?
I guess it's probably the same as any generation that, you know, the big difference, I think, in this generation is the whole social media experiment. And we have no idea the long-term effects, but it seems to most of us it's not a good idea. And yet, it is just the air we breathe today. So that's new. But everybody needs Jesus, man. From the dawn of time until now, everybody needs the same thing. Everybody needs Jesus. What I do see happening, though, is there seems to be like a probably more of a polarization in Reagan's generation than before. So maybe not as much just casual Christianity. I'll go to youth group because that's what everybody's doing because there's so many other options, you know. But, if you're going to be a follower of Jesus, you're really standing out even more these days, probably in high school than even like when I was in high school. Like we do FCA in my high school, and everybody that wasn't just an absolute psycho weirdo would show up because that was just the thing to do. not for sure all those people weren't following after Jesus. And so, like, I experienced it at camp this year, you know, when we helped lead camp. And, man, the students, our 1122 student ministry, those kids, by and large, were on fire for Jesus. And so that's what it seems like to me. Like, the kids that love Jesus love him more. And there doesn't seem to be as many, at least in the church, that are just kind of casually going through the motions, at least as much. But then the other side of that is the people that don't want to have anything to do with Jesus. They're not casual in that either. It's like a full-on rejection.
And they seem to be very loud voices. Like you would...
Yeah, there's almost been, especially these days, with things like LGBTQ movement and transgenderism and this kind of obsession with abortion, these kinds of things, like in our face all the time, especially in the political environment we're in. There seems to be as much religious devotion to that as the kind of religious devotion that we have to going to church and singing songs of Jesus and studying our Bible.
For sure.
So that's different. That seems to be new.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was so encouraged at camp. I was just like, wow, don't believe the hype. Like, this generation is not lost.
No.
This generation is on fire. The ones that know the Lord,
Totally.
they're going to change the world. And then you see all these college revivals happening across the country. It's so encouraging because it doesn't always get all the press or all the noise, but then you see it and you're like, of course God's working in and through what we would love to be convinced, oh, this generation, they're too far gone. And it's like that Socrates quote, I think, that you've read before in sermons.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same. It's just a new generation. Obviously, there are differences like social media and phones and all the things, but it's the same problems, just a different day.
Yeah, and every time God has had a major, like, Great Awakening or a major nationwide revival or worldwide revival, it always started in the student generation.
Yeah. Which I get it. I mean, the way y'all worship and are hungry for the Lord is so inspiring to any adult. It moves people for sure. Pastor Joby, you do a thing, and I've quoted it on here, and I'd love for you to do not the full version of it, but the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, like how each decade has its thing.
Like I do at work sometimes?
You what?
Like when I'm talking to our staff.
Yeah, the perseverance, purpose. This has changed my life, by the way. And
I don't know if I can remember it all, but yeah.
Well, I'll help you. But one time I think I asked you to write a book about this, and you said maybe one day. So that was a lot of years ago. Maybe you'll write a book about it and just bring it back up. But then I wonder if there's one for teenage years. It has to be a P word.
I'd have to think about that one. But the idea is we've been sold a bill of goods that your whole, especially when you're 20 years old, that you've got to like find out what you're passionate about and then pursue that with everything. And we're not even using the word right. When we say I'm passionate about something, we mean I like it a lot and it makes me feel good. The word is actually from a Latin word to describe the crucifixion of Christ. It means something worth dying for. And so, man, in your 20s, you better figure out, like, you are about the Great Commission, period, and you should just be happy that you even got selected to join the Army, period, and do whatever you're asked to do as hard as you can, and be more excited about what you're a part of than the part you get to play. And then when you and this is very general, as you get into your 30s, then you need to figure out, like, your place in the body, you know? Like, I mean, this is what you're doing right now. So you joined our staff, and, I mean, you were like an admin assistant or something?
I was 25, yeah.
Sweet. But you're a perfect example. You just showed up and said, here I am, send me. I'll help in any way I can. Now you run a big portion of our creative team. You do stuff on stage. You do podcasts. And so in your 30s, it's a great place to, like, figure out your part of the body, you know, like see 1 Corinthians 12. Man, when you start getting into your 40s, you should really begin to focus in and hone in on that thing. And it's really like 40s, 50s, and even up into 60s. That's where you make hay. I mean, that's where you should be reaping a harvest in what God has called you to do. And then 60s and beyond, it's really about posterity. You should be making sure that you're raising up a generation and don't hold on to the baton too long, but hand it off to an upcoming generation as soon as you can.
Yeah, that was so life-changing for me because I definitely fell into the what is my passion? I want to do something fulfilling, which is why I hopped from corporate America to being a high school teacher for a year. And I was like, this is not fulfilling.
Yeah.
And then coming on staff, which was its whole story in and of itself, and it was within the first year on staff when you gave that talk and talked about how your 20s are not for your dream job. You use the word perseverance, just get through your 20s and still love the Lord and be on a good trajectory. And it was so freeing. I'm like, wow, I don't have to have it all figured out. Because I feel like when I was 15, I was told, what are you going to do? What are you going to be when you get older? What are you going to study in college? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I got to do this, and this.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So JP, he's at home. He came home for his girlfriend's birthday and Reagan's birthday. But think about it. So he's a freshman in college. He shows up. Before he gets there, they're like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Right.
6 months ago, he had to have permission to pee.
Right.
Can I leave the room and go to the bathroom? I don't think so, son. Sit there. And now, within 6 months, he's got to decide the rest. It's crazy. It's kind of weird.
It is. It is.
I think maybe the word for teenagers is it's really two words. It's probably patience and purity. If you're a believer, if you focus on those things, I know we live in a sick, twisted, dark, and demented world, and the enemy's only trying to steal, kill, and destroy. But if you pursue your relationship with Christ and be patient in what He has for you, because we live in such an instantaneous world, we want everything and we want it now. And if we have to wait for anything, it's not good. And it's doing bad things to our brains. Things like creativity and things like that happen in boredom. And, I think a lot of times too, a lot of us lose our awe for God because the only thing you look at is man-made items. And so what are you in awe of if all you ever look at is a blue screen and breathe air-conditioned air? I mean, one of the things that keeps me alive is, I don't know, I probably see 150 sunrises a year because I hunt so much. But it's a thing, man. This morning I was in the woods and I saw the sun come up and I saw the first cardinals and the whippoorwills kick off and a doe walks by and and so I would highly encourage this generation to keep your awe of God and not be so wrapped up in all the man-made stuff.
How are you doing that, Reagan? Is there any way that you like to encounter God?
I think I encounter God best through worship music. Music, just being able to openly worship and just have both hands up, just singing out my praise to Him.
Which I think is rooted in creation. If you look at it,
Totally.
When God made everything, you ever think about this? So why did He take 7 days or 6 days and then rest? He could have just said everything and then it's all there, but He didn't. In the first 3 days, He creates the environments that He fills with the subsequent inhabitants of that environment on days 4, 5, and 6. And there was evening and there was morning the next day. So there's this rhythm. I think this is why people like the beach so much, because the waves come in rhythm. I think this is why people love, if you live in Florida, you don't know what this is, but there's these things called seasons in other places. And we like for it to rhythmically shift from summer to fall, right? There's something.
Yeah, our hearts beat rhythmically.
Right.
Breathing is rhythmic.
And so, I mean, you got a bunch of babies. There's also this crazy connection, right? When your little baby lays on you, it's almost like your heart sync up or something's going on there. Well, there's music can be like that because music can seep into places that mere words can't.
That's right.
And maybe this is why God wants us to sing to Him so much. So, and I know that music is or worship through song is a primary way for you. And I'll tell you, man, I got some buddies that are I'm not into it. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not questioning your salvation, except I kind of am a little bit. Something's off, dude. If there's just commands. Paul tells Timothy, tell godly men to lift holy hands in the sanctuary. So what are you doing? Shout to the Lord, right? Sing aloud. There's this emotive response to who God is and what He's done. Hopefully plays a significant role in the life of the believer.
Yeah, for sure. Music definitely transcends something, some sort of barrier. It just allows you to enter into a place of, I don't know, maybe it's your whole focus is on the object of what you're singing to.
It's also the only time, at least in our church, where we're all praying the same words.
Which is incredible.
So it's very unifying. And I think your average 1122er doesn't think about this, but we've got 14 as by the time it's theirs, we'll have 15 campuses. And we're all singing the same thing to the same God at the same time as one church in 15 different locations.
Incredible.
Including our prison campuses.
Yeah.
It's very unifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to hear the story of how you guys ended up studying the book of Matthew, right? Matthew? Is that what you're studying together?
Well, we've been going through a little bit of whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How'd that all come about, studying the Bible together?
Do you remember the text you sent me?
One day I just texted him and I was like, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember I said, like, I want to start reading my Bible more, and I don't know where to start. And then...
Yeah, it's not like this formal discipleship thing as much as it is. I mean, Reagan will just get up, especially, there's only really Saturday. When you got teenage kids, Saturday is the only day where everybody's just kind of chilling, And so she'll get up, go to the back porch, pop out her Bible. She's got 10,000 she's got 66 little tabs on it, and she's out there doing her thing. And what I will typically do is just ask a few questions. And I never ask, like, well, what do you think about that verse? Because I don't care what you think about that verse. I ask, what do you think God is saying? Or what do you think this is saying about you, God, Jesus, the Bible? Also, because she goes to Providence, she has Bible class. And so a lot of times we just do her Bible homework together, which is... pretty good,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just asked some questions and she asked me questions. And
How's it been for you?
It's been great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's been a good starting place to read your Bible?
Definitely.
So if a friend came up to you and said, I want to start reading my Bible, but I don't know where to start, just like you said to him, what would you tell them now?
I would say start in the, Gospels.
Yeah.
Like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Yeah. Why would
Just
you say that?
That's what he told me to do.
I mean, it's good
Well done.
advice.
That's what he told me to do.
Yeah.
now if we could get your brother on the same page and do whatever he tells you to do, you're good to go.
All right. So what are the things, Reagan, in high school that might distract you from following the Lord?
Definitely wanting to be, popular, wanting people to like you. Because, realistically, if you're going to youth group, going to church, involved in the church, showing, that you are openly Christian and worshiping God, you're not really going to be going to the parties and, the stuff that makes you popular, have the highest status in the school or whatever. And you're going to feel left out from a lot of things. You're going to feel well, I just go to this one thing so that I don't feel left out anymore. Or so that I can be included and I can, experience my high school, stuff. But, a lot of times that's what, distracts us.
Is that hard for you to feel, left out?
Yeah. A lot of times.
So what do you do in those moments?
I just text my friends from church and I'll be like, hey, let's go, to the town center or go to the beach or something, instead of being well, maybe I could just go to this party because everyone's going, I won't do anything, knowing realistically one thing will lead to another. And you know what I mean?
Well, that applies to anybody. The way you avoid the things that might bring death are not only not doing that, but also then filling your life with the things that will bring you life. So, I mean, what a great response, not to just sit alone at home and try to muscle through, well, I'm not going to go. But no, let me then fill my life with things that actually will bring me life and probably end up having a great time anyway and not feeling like you missed out.
Yeah, Mom texted me this morning. I was in the deer stand, and she said, I'm so proud of Reagan. You don't know this. She's like, there's some teenage girl drama, and it's around homecoming, and everybody else is zigging and Reagan's gonna zag. So she's decided I'm not, dude, it's what I just preached this weekend. in the spring of the year, in the time where the kings went to war, David sent Joab, and he's laying on the couch. He was not in the place he was supposed to be, and it led to destruction. And so, honestly, you could have done the thing. We wouldn't even know. You could have just, whatever, done like everybody else. But she didn't. She's called one of her youth group buddies, and she's going to do like the beginning because it's all everybody. And then when one part of the crowd goes there, she's not.
Yeah. Good for you.
And this wasn't like this isn't us like clamping down on her.
Sure.
This was just her being serious about her walk with Jesus. That's one of the keys, man, to parenting. One, every kid's different. So y'all listen to this, okay? Because it's the craziest thing in the world. You're the same dad and mom, and you have these kids that are not. You're like, how does this happen? How do you take the same genetics and come up with opposites? This is unbelievable, okay? And so, but man, when you got a kid that just is on fire for the Lord, then you're just trying to do everything you can to fan the flame. Here's for instance. To surprise Reagan for her birthday, we had bought Hamilton tickets. We were going to go to New York because she loves Hamilton. She loves every word of it. And so
Love it too.
I was like, let's go. And so we found this little date, and we were going to go and fly up and do a whole thing, right? Be fun. New York, me, G, and her, and Hamilton. And we were like, you want to go? She's so excited. And then we're like, it's this date. She goes, that's the student leadership retreat.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, we're going to figure it out then. Because here's the thing. Even if we're going to try to sell the tickets. So if you want to buy Hamilton tickets, what is it? November, whatever it is. Please let me know. I'll give you a good deal. Full price plus tax. And so anyway, but we can move. Hotels are easy to move. Flights are easy to move. Hamilton's not as easy to move. But even if I have to eat it on those tickets, we can go to Hamilton next spring. But she wants to go experience the living God with her buddies. Dude, I would pay 3 times of what we paid for Hamilton for her to want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so a huge part of your job as a parent, and it's not really that different, whether they're 2 or 15, is to train up your child in the way it says he should go. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. So she doesn't want to miss camp. We're going to make sure she doesn't miss camp. And we're going to make that be like the big rock in our calendar that everything bounces off of instead of the other way around. We're not saying if we can fit it in, then we'll make it work. We're doing it the other way.
The parenting, it's like your parenting foundation doesn't change with your kids, but you do have to cater to then who they are individually, which seems difficult. I was just talking about this with my sister, actually, and my sister and I are really, really different. And we were just talking about our different perceptions of our childhood. Things I think are just, and you've talked about this with Russ before.
Yeah.
The things that I characterize my childhood with are some things that she wouldn't. And I'm like, and I was so, it was kind of shocking, really. And I kept bringing it back up. I'm like, I need to talk about this more. And she's like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, no, it's just so interesting that you could perceive the exact same parents and experience both really positive, but really different.
So the key is, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, because we don't know what we're doing. You're the first 15-year-old girl I've ever raised in my whole life.
That's
right?
good news.
So I don't know. And I've raised a boy through 15, but it was very, very, very different. So we've tried to parent towards relationship, knowing that there is a planned emancipation at the end of this. Like, you're going to leave our house. I hope you go to UNF. I'll get you a beach apartment, and I'll buy you a vehicle if you'll stay in town. So, but it's not going to be at our house. You're going to, So because the key, I think, is there will be a day very soon where you don't ask me permission on where to go anymore. You get to go wherever you want. But I still want to be a significant influence in your life. And there's a way to parent towards compliance. And the smaller you are, the more you dial that up. And then as they grow, it's like the compliance. I mean, you can't do whatever you want, but the compliance begins to turn down as you just continuously ramp up the relationship. And when you've got that relationship of really honor, respect, and trust, then you can continuously be a significant influence in your kid's life.
Do you think presence is the key ingredient in that, or what is?
I think you should answer that one.
Like, what's the key ingredient of if he's saying parenting towards relationship? So now here you are in high school and you're getting a little bit more independence, but he still wants to be a big influence. What do you think the key ingredient over the past 10 years has been?
Probably just knowing that he always wants what's best for me. He's never going to do anything to harm, and mom, obviously.
Sure.
Both of y'all are never going to do anything to harm me. It's always going to be what's best for me, or whatever they think is best in the moment.
Yeah, we fight to. I always tell, like, we'll plan something and the kids don't want to do it. We're like, I don't care. We're making memories, man. You don't get a vote on this. This is not a democracy. Because they would pick something stupid every time. If you let your 6-year-old always decide what you do, they're always going to choose some dumb game with their dumb friends. Now, games and friends are fine, but, like, you got to make sure to say, nope, this is what we do. So, I mean, look, right now, you said, will you come on The Neighbors? I was like, yep, as long as I can bring Reagan. That's my non-negotiable. It's just a chance to do this. This is fun. And tonight we're going out to dinner all together. It'll be fun. And you know what? One of the things that was really cool, I coached all JP stuff from 4 to 18. This is the first season in 14 years I haven't coached a thing. In fact, like last year, I couldn't do this right now because I'd be prepping for the football game. So anyway, he was right. JP was writing his graduation thank you notes for, Pastor Britt bawled out and just gave JP a wad of cash. And he was like, I know what it's like to be the pastor's kid. So I saw the note that JP wrote to Pastor Britt. And it said something like, I really appreciate you filling in all the gaps so my dad could be at all the games. That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's really cool.
So and it's not like, I don't know, we want to. I don't want to miss anything.
Sure.
So whatever Reagan does, I go to. I mean, it's fun. And as they get older, they're like, kind of like mini adults. Not totally, but it's just fun. It gets way more fun.
Yeah, every season's fun for different reasons, I'm sure.
Not really. The little ones, when they're tiny and they're just...
Yeah, we have they
cry
get
and
fun
scream
when
and
they
crap.
get slightly more fun when they turn 1. Sub 1.
You're about to... Yeah, y'all are still in it. Man, when you got no diapers, no driver's license, dude, that's the glory days right there.
A sweet
oh,
spot.
Man. When they go to the bathroom by themselves and tell you what they want to eat, oh, let's go.
I know, we kind of put off potty training and then we did it and we were like, this was the best thing ever.
It's incredible.
What?
You don't remember
You
this?
put off.
Not she's only 3, not for an extended period of time.
Okay.
She's like 10.
She is going to middle school next year.
Reagan, what's your perception? Like, do you feel that your parents have parented you differently than JP?
I don't really know that much how they parented JP because for most of the time me and JP, our age gap isn't that big, but it's pretty big. For most of the time I was either like a little 6-year-old just running around, or I was like minding my own business. I was like young, but I think it was pretty much the same. The only difference was like how you would parent a girl over a guy, like a teenage girl over a teenage guy.
What's the difference there? Either of you can answer that.
I mean, I feel like you should answer. I feel like you're the parent.
I think there was a lot more one-on-ones in regards to navigating life with me and JP, and then a lot more one-on-ones navigating life with her and mom, because like when you get high school girl drama, mom can nuance that conversation. I'm like, work it out. I mean, I don't, and yeah, JP's, it was more like do hard things and finish the drill and,
Do you talk to your parents about a lot of things? Like, are you pretty open with them?
I'm very open with them.
Why do you think that is? Like, that's my dream for our kids. I mean, obviously I want them to love the Lord, but I really want them to be able to tell us stuff. So why do you think you feel comfortable telling them stuff?
They just make me... they don't make me feel judged. They make me feel like I can go to them and they can be understanding. They can be like, instead of being like, oh, that's happening, or like, oh, well, you should have done it this way, they're more like, oh, here, let me help you. Let me tell you what to say, what to do, like how to text back, how to, all this stuff.
I do think both of you guys are more comfortable talking to mom, which is fine. I mean, because all the time I got to be like, you can tell me anything. They're like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, I'm, you know. I mean, it is, man. It is. So even though I think she can be tougher than me, but I don't know. I guess it's just my face, but it's fine. That's the thing. It's not like I mean, Grace and I it's the same team, so you know, it doesn't matter who they call.
I know. I mean, even at our kids' young age, like they oscillate between phases of where they want me more than Wes, or if they want Wes more than me, and I kind of love it when they want Wes too. Like, it's beautiful when you see your kids love your spouse just as much as you love them.
And I don't know how much of it is like dad, mom, as much as just we have very different personalities, you know? Like when they need money, they come to me.
Yeah, what's the story you tell of JP saying he was going to take Reagan to Chick-fil-A or something, and so you gave them like a bunch of money because that was your dream come true, that they were going to Chick-fil-A together?
Oh, yeah. Oh, when he would take her to, you know, when he was in high school last year and would take her places, I was like, if you ever take your sister, I fund it all. But, you know, he had a job. But it was like, but if it's just you, bro, you got your Hope's closet money's got to pay for that, dude.
Yeah. All right, let's talk social media for a minute. So what's your family, just how do you go about it? How do you steward, navigate, permission? I don't know. How do you do social media? Do you have it? Let's start there.
I do have social media.
Have you ever gotten in trouble for it?
I have gotten in trouble for it.
Oh, let's talk about that for a long time.
For a long time.
I think you're going to have to figure out, like, it's a thing, man. It is funny. I hear all these, it's always Christian men who are tough and know everything, and their kids are too. And they're like, my kid will never. I'm like, well, that's adorable.
Right.
Let's see how that works out. So, kids are different, man. JP's not into it. If he didn't have a girlfriend, I don't think he would have an account. You know what I mean?
He hates phones. He's like an old man.
Off the grid.
He's like, I hate phones. Like, if I'm somewhere with him and I'm on my phone, I'll be like texting dad. I'll be like, we're alive. And then he'll be like, why are you on your phone? I'm trying to talk to you. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I love that.
So how have you gotten in trouble? Tell them about that.
It was a while ago.
That's true.
But I don't know. I just didn't use it in the right ways. And so I got them taken away. And then
You're saying them. Like
the different like social media.
okay,
platforms.
this is multiple platforms.
Yeah, we were like, all right, you can have a phone. She wasn't first and she wasn't last. You know,
love that
so
philosophy.
trying to kind of figure it out. We try to do the don't take it in your room, but that, you know, sometimes. But the biggest thing is, Gretchen has all access to everything, and that's what happens. She just like started a little like side account. We're like, so you don't have a phone for 6 months. That's how that's going.
Oh, 6 months.
Oh, we go hard. We go hard in the paint, man. No problem.
Yeah.
She's like, what if I'm in trouble? Call 911. You know. But for real, that's how. I mean, that's kind of how we've navigated it. And so, I think the key is, you know, you want to train your child in how to navigate this into adulthood versus just say, don't. And then one day, you know, they get to college and they just have their phone all the time and you haven't taught them how to navigate it.
What did you learn through that experience and not having it for 6 months?
Well, okay. That was more of like an example. What actually happened is I got the social media taken away, like the specific apps taken away. And the way I was in like 7th grade, the way I went about it, I was like, I'm just going to download it on my phone and see how long it takes for them to notice. And like delete it. I would delete it at night and then I would re-download it in the morning. And then I got caught like 5 times.
Oh my gosh. She couldn't learn.
Yeah.
And then eventually,
JP would always tell on you.
That guy.
Well,
I just went to them and I was like, hey, let's talk about how I can get my social media back
Negotiator.
and not just sneak it. And they're like, okay, we'll have mom kind of like have it all to where she can see what's going on. She can like see whenever she wants.
yep.
She has like access to all of the stuff on my phone.
Well, that's a great principle that
Yeah.
you didn't just immediately shut her down when she came with a proposal.
Dude, I like it. I don't want my kids to talk back disrespectfully. Well, I wouldn't put up with that. But negotiating is a really good tactic in life to learn. And so let's figure this thing out. And you know me. I'm the king at my house, man. So what I say goes, period. I know this to be true. However, I would love for you to help me try to understand something that I can't fully get my head around right now. No problem there whatsoever. So when Reagan was born, JP was like 4 years old. It's about 4 years difference, and not quite, and I would tell him, your number one job is to protect Reagan. And I would ask him, what's your number one job? He'd go, protect Reagan. So when they were in high school, if she was being, shiesty, just trying to have this little Instagram, and then JP would be like, Dad, and he was very protective of her. Here's the thing, and I know this isn't fair, but it just is what it is. It's a little bit different between boys and girls. It's not when your kid gets a phone, it's not necessarily what you are giving them access to. It's who in this world you're giving access to your child, which is everybody if they're on social media. And so we watch that like a hawk.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. But like you said, if you just avoid it, then you end up getting to a place where one day they don't live in your house and then the floodgates are open and they have no idea how to then navigate it because they haven't gotten in trouble and then learned how to negotiate what a smart way to have it is.
Yeah, there's seasons in my life where I have zero social media access on my phone, or I don't even know how to log in on my computer. And I have teams of people that help me do it, but anytime I find myself spending too much time on something, there are seasons I need to be kind of involved. Like I got a book out right now, so I got to do a bunch of stuff. And I'm on all these podcasts, so I got to do some stuff. But man, the moment I scroll for longer than I intended to, I just take it off for 40 days. And I'm just not going to do this for a while.
I know. It's like if grown, mature adults can't handle social media,
right?
Then, yeah, of course teenagers need guardrails and help navigating it. Okay, switching gears a little bit. I know I kind of made fun of this earlier about people always ask when you're in high school, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? But I don't want to ask it like that, but what are your hopes and dreams? If you think about yourself in 10 years or, I don't know, 5 years even, what kind of stuff do you see yourself doing?
I want to go into ministry, and I know that for a fact.
That's right. That was at camp, right? Where you raised your hand for the call to ministry? Mm-hmm. So what was that moment like?
I was just like, I had been talking about it with my dad, and I was like, this feels like the perfect opportunity to just raise my hand and say, I want to do this.
So cool. You'd been serving at church all summer, like doing the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's so funny. She's like, normally I'm kind of lazy and I don't like chores, but at church, I love it so much.
Like, how do you?
Because she would do think about what job you get as a rising ninth grade 14-year-old girl.
Envelopes for camp.
For hours. Days in a row, and love it. What'd you love most? What'd you love most about it? Is it the people you're working with?
It's the people.
Yeah.
Gotta be the people. It's fun people, right? It's fun people.
Especially like the youth ministry people.
They're really fun. Yeah. I know. And you have fun friends too. Your little crew there. I would like join your table doing the between meetings. I'm stuffing envelopes. I'm like, how did I get here? Why am I hanging out here? Okay, so you see yourself in ministry. Anything specific come to mind, or?
I don't know like exactly what I want to do yet. I really want to, for college, my dad really wants me to go to, what's it called?
UNF.
UNF. Sorry, I forgot what it's called.
It's okay.
I almost said UFC.
He probably wants to go there too.
I'd rather you not fight in the UFC.
But I also have been thinking about like Liberty. I really want to go there.
That's great.
Yeah.
There's also a great school in Lakeland called Southeastern.
Yes.
You can get a ministry degree there too.
Where's Lakeland?
It's a couple hours from here.
Like kind of near Orlando, kind of.
Yeah, it's just kind of out in the woods.
Do you see so I know you said you love worship. Do you ever see yourself leading worship? Is singing in there?
Everyone asks me, they're like, "Do you have your mom's voice?" Like,
You're like,
no.
I don't have my own voice, thank you very much. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, my youth group leader thinks I have a really good voice. She really wants me to like sing, but
Okay.
I don't think anyone else thinks that. I think it's only her. I definitely don't think that.
Okay. What about like talking in front of people? Because I feel like you're pretty confident. Do you ever see yourself like on a stage with a microphone teaching people about Jesus?
Maybe.
Okay. Cool.
I think your attitude right now is the perfect one. Like back to what Allie was asking about when you're in your 20s and stuff. You just know you want to be a part of the advancement of the kingdom of God through his local church. And so whether that's stuffing envelopes or, that's a great attitude. And then I promise you, it's kind of like when the only way to know which way the wind's blowing if you're in a sailboat is you got to get off the dock and set sail. And it's kind of like that. You just say yes and get going, and then it'll all work itself out.
For sure.
I know a guy that can get you a sweet job at a great church.
My job title is series programming. I had never heard of that term because that's a very church ministry term. And so I had never, so if you would have asked me like, what do you want to do in ministry? I wouldn't have said series programming. But then but it's my dream job. Like I love it so much, but I didn't even know it existed. But when I came into ministry, I just started trying a bunch of different things. I was in one role, but just learning about all the different areas of ministry. And then you're able to kind of find your fit. But the people are like, you already know it. The people are that's part of the best part is working with family members that it's just like you show up to work every day and you're like, is this work? Like I'm working with people that I love doing such an incredible thing, helping people discover and deepen a relationship with Jesus.
That's
Reagan, you go ahead.
That's what I've always wanted for work. I never want the job I have when I'm older. I don't want it to feel like work. I want it to feel like I just don't want to hate it. Because everyone talks about, everyone hates their jobs. Like, it's just a thing. No, I don't want that.
You have hard days for sure, and you work really hard. But, yeah, even on the worst days, I would never trade my job for anything. Like,
so Allie's a really good leader. She's also good with tasks. She's got an eye for the creative, and she's good with people. So you put all that together, and the seat that she sits in, all of those things, she gets to use all those things. That makes sense.
Which is wild because I was a marketing major, and I remember telling someone that I was working on staff at a church. And they said, well, you were a business major, so you're probably not using anything you learned. I said, no, I'm actually using everything I learned. You know what I did for 4 years in college? Learned how to give a presentation, learned how to lead a meeting, learned how to put together a project management document, like these things that I use literally every day. And it's just... God sows so many seeds along the way. Some of the clubs I was in high school, I'm like, it's so obvious that God was honing a craft, but I could have never put language to it. Like, I was just like, yeah, I mean, that sounds cool to do something fulfilling that I would show up and like what I did. I didn't even know ministry was the thing in high school. But then you sit in the seat and you're like, oh, God was definitely piecing it together all along, you know? You just take faithful steps.
Yeah.
All right, so final encouragement for the 15-year-old out there listening right now. I met some of them a couple weeks ago at students. So what's your encouragement for the high schooler right now who just wants to follow after the Lord and have friends?
I think the biggest thing is finding a good group of God-loving friends. That's the biggest thing. And then second thing would be don't be afraid to, like, show that you're all in for God. Because it's so you'd be surprised how, like, people are like, she's actually into, like, that God stuff. Like, even at, like, a private Christian school, they're like, oh, she doesn't want to go to this party. That's kind of weird. You know what I mean? But, like, don't be afraid of that, because then you'll find the people that actually are also, they'll see that you're sharing God's word, and they'll be like, oh, I want to be around them, because they might be scared of the same things too. Like,
For sure.
Yeah.
So good. Pastor Joby, final encouragement for the parent of any age kid, but really a teenager.
Don't give up. God loves your kid way more than you do, and He's got a purpose and a plan for your kid. And like I said, just like God's relationship towards us is not bent towards compliance. He loves us, and it's that love that is to motivate obedience. And so we should try to do our best to parent our children the same way God, the Father, parents us. And if your kid's just freaking wilding out right now, let yourself off the mat. I mean, in the parable of the prodigal son in Luke 15, what did the dad do wrong? And the answer is nothing. One of the hardest things, especially with teenagers, there's this one line in there. It says, and the kid, the younger son, he longed to eat the pods that the pigs were eating, period, and no one did anything for him. And so I get it, man. You love your kids so much, and you want to rescue them from all the consequences of their own bad decisions. And sometimes you got to let them just own it and eat it and fall flat on their back so that they can, first and foremost, look up and see God Almighty. And then when they return, do everything you can to have them return to grace, because that's how God loves us.
Amen. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Reagan, so proud of you. And yeah, like your dad said, I love just watching you because your boldness inspires me. And I think you're going to be a world changer. I really do. And yeah, I hope my daughters are like you and they're your age. I really
See how this works?
I know.
So when she was 15, I was her youth pastor, and I poured into her. And then what's going to happen is she spends time with you, and then you're going to help raise her kids. That's how this thing works. That's how the church is built.
I love
Generation
it so
upon generation upon generation.
I love it. Well, thank you guys. Neighbors is produced by Logger Creative and Taylor Minning. Music by Austin and Lindsay Adamak. Artwork by Wesley Parsons. And motion graphics by Robbie Burns.